You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. It was a busy recruiting weekend for Brian Kelly and the football Tigers. Billy Embody from the Bengal Tiger there at On3, good enough to join us for a couple minutes to recap it all. How are you, man?
Doing well, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Before we kind of dive into the nuance, can you kind of just give us a sense of the recruiting calendar right now and where we are as we move into the summer?
Yeah, this is a sprint for Brian Kelly and his staff right now. You've got official visits, which happen every weekend in June, the first weekend, second weekend, third weekend, fourth weekend, and that 23rd weekend is the last weekend. They're allowed to host official visitors, and then they get one weekend in July, the last one, to host official visitors and unofficial visitors. During this time, they're doing camps as well. They just wrapped up their first defensive line camp last week on Friday. They'll have an elite camp on Wednesday, and then they'll have their O-line, D-line camp and 7-on-7 tournament on Saturday, and then they've got another round of elite camps next weekend. So busy time for them. Yeah, I know. Oh and by the way, they spent the last month and a half on the road recruiting during spring practice.
Yeah, man. That is a sprint is a good way to put it. Let's go to this past weekend with the offensive defensive line camp. I know there were some notable prospects, maybe some offers doled out. Can you kind of give us a recap, a synopsis of the headlines?
Yeah, Jalen Chapman is the one I want to really hone in on here because he's a New Orleans area prospect who earned an offer from the Tigers as a 2025 prospect, and he's now squarely on the radar for LSU. He's one of the top offensive linemen in the state of Louisiana. And, whenever it comes to New Orleans prospects, and you have Frank Wilson on your staff, you have Brad Davis, who's from Louisiana, you have Cortez Hankston. The staff has really done a nice job in New Orleans, and Jalen Chapman earned his offer, and I tell you what, the state is now starting to kind of churn out a little bit more and more on the offensive line for LSU to kind of pick from. We've seen Brad Davis and LSU really see the fruits of that with guys like Emory Jones and Will Campbell and Lance Hurd and Tyree Adams. The state of Louisiana is starting to really do a nice job producing offensive linemen, and Jalen Chapman is the latest to really be the one that I think you've got to circle. A lot of guys come in nationally. You see some offers thrown out. They offered a offensive lineman from Alabama, Will Sanders. They had his nickname is Dank Brown, but Dank Brown from Mississippi is a four-star offensive lineman in 2024 who has Louisiana ties. He was on campus for the camp, and who knows, maybe they make a move on him and offer him. But you see some national guys come in and get some well-deserved offers for performing well on both sides of the ball. But really what we saw was Jalen Chapman earn his offer, and that's a big one in the state of Louisiana.
So Chapman getting the offer. Any other notable – you mentioned officials every week during June. Any other notable officials this weekend?
Yes, this weekend was a good trio of prospects that hit campus for official visits. They had four-star defensive back Joshua Lair, who's out of the Houston area. He's a four-star safety. He's plays a little bit of basketball for his team over there, but he's somebody that Texas and Texas A&M are recruiting really hard, and he told me LSU's in his top three after the weekend. Now, Joel Rogers, a local prospect who's a four-star safety, was on campus for an unofficial visit. He's another top safety nationally, and LSU already has two committed. So if we see Rogers jump on board here relatively soon, I could see that safety class being pretty solidified for LSU. Wardell Mack is one of the best defensive backs in Louisiana and just the country overall, and he could play corner, he could play safety. So he's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He's kind of like an in-state JV and Toviano this cycle. He could be one who jumps on board at some point. So that's kind of a little mini dive into what's left at safety, and Lair being the guy who's on campus officially. And then they did have Marcus Maskell on campus, who is kind of under the radar as far as rankings go. We have him right on the cusp of being a four-star prospect. He's got some nice size. He reminds me a little bit of DJ Chester around this time last year, a little bit under the radar, but LSU and Florida are really the ones that we see as battling it out for him. And I think LSU sits in a really good spot to land him. He's out of the Atlanta area, which is kind of another reason why he reminds me of DJ Chester, I guess. But he's got that big size to him, could play along the interior, and Brad Davis has done a really nice job recruiting him. He's got a decision date set for June 19th, and I think right now you got to like where LSU stands.
Did we lose Billy?
And Eagles and Cortez Hankton have kind of tag-teamed this one. He's 4-star wide receiver. LSU and Ohio State are battling.
I'm sorry, Billy, real quick. Sorry, your phone cut out. Who's the 4-star wide receiver?
Jeremiah McClellan.
Got it. Okay.
He's out of Christian Brothers College in St. Louis, and LSU and Ohio State are the top two teams for him. He heads to Ohio State this weekend, and we'll see if LSU's visit holds strong there for him. He told me that he was really surprised in a way by LSU and just how well they showed. They moved way up his list, and now we'll see if LSU can kind of hold off the push that Ohio State is going to come with this weekend.
Billy Embody's with us on Twitter at Billy Embody on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Let's look at the class as a whole right now for 2024 for LSU. They're at On 3. Y'all have them ranked 11th with 16 commits. Is there any idea yet, Billy, or is it too early to tell, just when we talk about numbers, how many this class may be looking to add, considering freshmen and potential portal commits eventually down the line?
That's the really hard part about recruiting these days is I think the number is kind of fluid, depending on how guys see themselves over the course of this season, and then whether or not they make the move to enter the portal after this season, from LSU's end, because that ultimately opens up more spots if we do see some departures. And look, in this day and age, it happens. And so I do think the number is fluid. I think with 16 commits on board right now, you got to think that they're looking at a number that could be around 25 or so from the high school ranks, maybe a little higher. But there's still a good bit of meat on the bone left in Louisiana. They have a lot of top targets still out there who are undecided and are going to officially visit this summer. So it's just if they come up with even 2/3 of their top targets, you're looking at a class that probably inches close to that 25 to 30 mark, and that's just high school. So it is one of those moving numbers, and we always see a prospect or 2 or 3 decommit and head elsewhere, and there's some guys that you circle, that maybe haven't been back to campus in a minute, or maybe aren't showing with their actions that they are as committed as a commitment should be, but. We'll kind of see how those go, and see if they have a couple other spots open up. But yeah, it's just they're in a good spot for a number of prospects, and they're also in a battle with some of them too. But they're doing a really nice job on a select group to put themselves in position to sign a class of 25 to 30.
A couple more for you, Billy. One, just sort of functionally, of course, like Brian Poling was in the recruiting coordinator role. He's no longer there. Just when you look at assimilating the board and the whole process, has it changed much at all, or roles changed at all within LSU's sort of recruiting process?
I don't think so too much. I think guys like Will Redmond, J.R. Belton, Jordan Archimo's taking on a different role with more on the NIL side and things like that. But Sherman Wilson, Bobby Barham, there's a bunch of people in that department that have really done a nice job doing a lot of the groundwork with recruiting players and kind of setting the tone for when assistants really start to ramp up and get involved during the evaluation period and during official visits, and of course assistants are doing a good bit of their own recruiting, but those guys are really the ones that have that ball and just kind of go nonstop. They communicate, they evaluate. And that's really what it comes down to, especially, at the top with Will Redmond, J.R. Belton, Mike Ferrara, guys like that do a lot of the evaluating and try to piece together that board. That is on them in a sense, and then it kind of goes up to the assistant level and then coordinators and then Coach Kelly. And I don't think we see too much as far as that changing, and they're pretty well solidified overall on that front.
He is Billy Embody on 3, the Bengal Tiger. You follow him on Twitter at Billy Embody. One thing's for sure, recruiting never stops, and it certainly is a sprint throughout June and the summer months with camps, etc. We'll keep following along, man. We appreciate a couple of minutes as always.
Appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.